Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of What's in the Box here on Hidden Base Games. So in this series I'll be opening up models or box games to show you what's inside so that you get a feel of a bit of a glimpse of basically what's in the box. For miniatures and miniature games I'll be posting the end results after they've been built so that you can see what they look like, along with some of my thoughts about the game in general and where it's going. So today I'm going to be starting with this Marvel Crisis Protocol by Atomic Mass Games. Now it's something that's sat on my shelf for probably about 3-4 months now. I've been busy with real world stuff, but I figure now's a good time to get started and let's jump right in. So this retails for around about £90 in the UK or around $100 in the US at RRP. However, with most of these games and things that I'll be reviewing, these can be found cheaper either online or at your local store. Now, I'm a big advocate of supporting local, so I'd always urge you to try and buy these wherever possible. Even if it does cost you a few dollars or pounds more, we should always be trying to support our friendly local gaming store. Now, with that said, let's have a look at the box. Now, it's a fairly big box because it's the starter set. Inside, you get, let's go through the box contents. So you get 10 character miniatures, and these are the characters here. You get 5 good guys and 5 bad guys from various different bits of the Marvel franchise. You get 10 bases, a Daily Bugle stand, which you can see here. You get 2 cars, which you can kind of see just here. You get 2 dumpsters, one of which is here. I think the other's there. You get 2 traffic lights, which are here. You get 2 lampposts, which are here. You get 170 tokens, and I'll be talking about what they are inside. You get 20 team tactics cards, 3 map cards, 2 affiliation cards, 10 character stat cards for the 10 characters that we've got here. You get 6 crisis cards, and the crisis cards and the where is it? They're like the mission cards basically. You get some movement tools, some range tools, learn to play, and some dice. Now the characters that we get in here, we've got Dr. Octopus, Captain Marvel, Ultron, Spider-Man, Crossbones, Red Skull, Black Widow, Captain America, Iron Man, and Baron Zemo. This is probably the least known guy. He was, if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he appears in the Civil War film, but here he is in his comic book fashion with these kind of purple, for want of a better phrase, GIMP costume on. So let's open this up. Now with me I've got some tools. I don't know whether you can see. So I have like a mold line cleaner, just a generic file, a hobby knife, and some hobby clippers. And I'll also be using some Games Workshop plastic glue to put these guys together, because that seems to work with these. So let's get started and take this plastic wrapping off. So as you can tell, I have yet to open this. Let's get rid of that. Just throw that in the bin down there. If you hear any jingling or snoring, I have a beagle asleep under my feet. So let's open this up and have a look what's inside. I'll put that to one side. So here we have the Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures game. So in here is things like the contents list. It's got the various different credits for who designed it and different people in the studio and things like that, with playtesters and things like that. So have a read through. There might be some names you recognise. And then it all talks about content list and rules and things like that. So I'm not going to do a breakdown of what they are today. That will be in another video. But as you can see, you've got all the instructions in here and things like that for the different characters, for the terrain and vehicles and things like that. So we'll be using those to build the miniatures later. fairly detailed. One thing I have noticed with these kits is they don't include the part number in the actual instructions. So on a few of them, they might be a little bit misleading. So just make sure you pay attention to what it is. Not these ones out of the box, but there's a couple of others that are slightly more complicated, where the parts look very similar in the instructions, and so you should always just kind of look out for those. But other than that, yeah, there's the rules and things like that. So let's again put that to one side. So here we have the character cards. So these are for the 10 characters that you get inside. And I'm not going to talk about tactics or anything today, or how you build your team and things like that. This is purely just an unboxing session. So each card has a, when they're fresh-faced and start of the game, and then when they take a certain amount of damage, they've got, you flip the card over as part of the mechanics. And then sometimes they've got slightly different stats or abilities. Some of them are exactly the same on both sides. Some of them get powered up or get weaker depending on what happens to them in the game. So here on the stats, we've got effectively there's a wound value, a movement value, a height, a threat value, which is like a points value if you used other games, and then these are their defense stats to basically say whether they're better against physical attacks or energy-based attacks or psychic or mind powers. So as I say, I'm not going to go through what all the rules and things are. I'll probably talk about these in individual breakdowns and character reviews. But we've got Baron Zemo, we've got Black Widow, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Crossbones, Dr. Octopus, Iron Man, Red Skull, Spider-Man, and the metal monstrosity himself, Ultron. So they're the 10 characters that you get inside this, and as I say, they've all got a flipped over damage side. I think the only one that exists in the game so far that doesn't have that is the Incredible Hulk, which you can see the unboxing of that in a video to follow this one. So let's put those to one side, and then we've got the tokens. So like with a lot of Atomic Mass games or Fantasy Flight games, a lot of tokens inherent to the game. So in here we've got, starting on this side, we've got energy, which is used for powering up superhero abilities and things like that you get on the card. And then these are activation tokens, which means you show that your character has activated. And then we've got things like, I believe they're stunned. And then we've got bleed. And then we've got wound, and then there's 3 wounds there, and then these are kind of character affiliation, so Hydra. I'm just going to grab the instructions so we can look at what these different things are. So let's find where the tokens are. So the tokens are down here, listed here. So we've got stun, we've got energy, we've got victory point tracker, we've got a Captain Marvel binary form. Not entirely sure what that does, but we'll see about that later on. Sorry, I'll just move that up so you can see. So as I say, we've got the stun here. We've got the victory token point tracker is these 2 little flags here. We've got a round tracker, and they're for the tracker boards, which are these things. And we've got a Captain America binary form, which we'll talk about when we come to look at the Captain America cards. Then we've got energy, and then these are the markers to signal whether something's activated or not. Then these are the dazed tokens. We've got the stagger tokens, and we've got the bleed tokens. Now they all have various different in-game effects, especially with the stun. And they, as I say, we'll come into those when we talk about rules discussion and things like that. Then we've got the damage, single points of damage, 3 points of damage, just so it's easier if you've, rather than having all the little tokens around, you've got some bigger wound markers there. And then we've got general status tokens. And then on the other side, we've got some Infinity Serum, and they're used in one of the missions. We've got the Origin Bomb, which is another one of the missions. We've got basically Civilian / Spider Infected, they're double-sided. So I'll open this up now so you can see. Just get my handy scalpel. Now be careful if you are unused to building miniatures and things like that and operating tools, or if you're a child, do get your parents to help you out with this, just because obviously you don't want to injure yourself while building what is effectively something that's fun. So we've opened this now, and as you can see, they are double-sided. This is the one that I was looking at in the first one. So there's the other side of the Hydra tokens, which are for the Captain America's shield. So I'll put that one to one side, and then this one is the threat tracker, or the it's effectively you track the game and victory points. So you track the turn and victory points. So turn and victory points there. So that's double-sided, blue on one side, orange on the other. And then we've got these are the civilian / spider. So if you look on the other side, they are purple and then blue on the other, and that's for one of the missions. Then we've got these ones here that look like just general businessman type person, and then the other side, so they're for the decoy and Skrull agent. And then we've got there is like a priority token here, so that's to signify who has priority. And then we have a cosmic cube fragment, which is another one that's used in one of the missions, along with this one here, which is the Extremis console. Looks a little bit like a mobile phone. So there are all the different tokens that are, and we've got some more energy and wound tokens. So these are all the tokens that are used in kind of the different missions and things like that, which again I'll come on to in another video. So here are the miniatures. This looks like the terrain. So we've got a lamppost and a set of traffic lights. Another lamppost and set of traffic lights. And we have a Daily Bugle stand. So that comes on 2 frames by the looks of it. And this is, it's like a plastic. And so you can use the plastic glue that I showed earlier. It's not resin. So for those familiar with Legion, some of their earlier models required you to use super glue to build them, and then some of the later ones like the battle droids, you can use plastic glue. This stuff works perfectly well. Plastic glue works perfectly well for these things. So there's the Daily Bugle stand. Just pop that up there out of the way. So that's that bag done. These bags are great, by the way, in terms of if you want to save. I've got lots from X-Wing for keeping spare cards and tokens and things like that in. Right, here we have the bases. So as I say, you get 10 miniatures, 10 bases. The 2 big ones there are for Doc Ock and for Ultron. And then, sorry, they're the medium ones, not the large ones. And then you've got the regular size ones here for 4 different designs. And they are for the other characters. So you've got a choice of bases to put them on. Fairly good in terms of their detail. They're moulded plastic, and they've got the details of like a city street on. So you've got a curb and like a storm drain or grate for those in the UK on this one. Some metal and brickwork, and then another one with some corner curb and some pavement slabs on these. And you get 2 of those frames. So there is a little bit of duplication, but as I say, you've got effectively 4 for your good guys and 4 for your bad guys. Although, Hail Hydra, there's not really much definition on who is a good guy and who is a bad guy. And then here we've got, this one is like a pavement that's dipping down. Those bumps there for people that are visually impaired. I know we have those in the UK, and I know you have them in the States, so that's what they are. And then just another another damaged piece of road there. So they're the bases. And then we've got the dice. So the dice here are, they're a D8, get 10 in the bag, and the same dice are used for both attacking and defending. and they've got it's an 8-sided dice, very similar to things like Legion and X-Wing, but they are proprietary dice, so it's not like it's a number 1 to 8. So there's a number of symbols on here, and I will talk through what they are. So I'm just going to look through the reference guide just so that I get the naming of these correct, because otherwise I'll call it a swirly and a skull and a shield and things like that. So let's find the dice. I've probably gone past it. Sorry, this is really boring for those of you watching at home. It's probably really simple. Dice. Right, here we go. It is on page 8 here, and it's talking about dice. So we've got critical, which is the exclamation mark there, and that basically they count as a success, and you get to add an extra dice in. Typically for crits, there's things that add and take that away in the game, certain abilities, things like that. You've then got wild dice, which is the swirly one, which effectively it can trigger special abilities, and they do count as successes as well. Usually some abilities mean that they don't. So there's one of those and one crit, and then we've got a hit, which is the kind of POW symbol, and that is when attacking they're usually successes, but they don't trigger other effects. And then you've got 2 of those, so there and there. And then we've got a block. So while defending, blocks are usually successes and don't trigger other effects. And there's only one of those, so obviously the game is weighted more to offense just by the very nature of crits and wild dice usually counting as successes under various triggers and things like that, and two hits, but only one block. So again, similar to X-Wing, if you had the dice balanced, then it purely comes down to luck. At least this way the game is tailored more towards offense rather than defense. And then you've got 2 blank results, which obviously count as nothing, and then you've got a failure, and failures can't be re-rolled or modified, so that's the skull. So you've got one of those. So effectively it's the same as rolling a 1 on a d6 in some games where they can't be modified, and the crit is like a 6, so like high and low effectively, but it's a d8, so a 1 and an 8 or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, skulls, the important thing about those is they can't be re-rolled or modified. I don't think there's any effect in the game yet at the moment that lets you do it, but who knows, they could change that at some point in the future. But yeah, as far as we're concerned at the moment, it's a failure and you can't do anything with it. So that's the dice. Now then, let's have a look at what the miniatures are. So, in this bag, we have what looks like Crossbones, Iron Man, Black Widow, and this looks like Baron Zemo, because you can see his sword there. So that's those 4. And then in this bag we have Red Skull, Captain America. It's funny that they put both of those guys in the same bag. We have Spider-Man, and we have Captain Marvel. Then just a couple more bags. So in this bag we've got some terrain and some of the medium-sized miniatures. So we have Ultron, and he's standing on a bit of a rock there. I love the pose of Ultron. He's probably one of my favourite miniatures that's in the starter set. And then we've got Dr. Otto Octavius, or Otto Octavius. Yeah, one of the other medium guys. And then in the bag with them, we get dumpster number 1 and dumpster number 2. Now, one of the great things with Crisis Protocol, in the game, you can actually throw the terrain. It's all interactive. And so on the bottom, you can see here there's a number 2. And then if I can find the base of the Daily Bugle, it should be on here somewhere, what the size of the actual item is. I can't see it on the Daily Bugle stand, but it is on these, so you can see here there's a size 1 there. So these are size 1, these are size 2, and that's all to do with who can and can't throw them and how they interact with blocking line of sight and things like that. So really, really intuitive system. And one of the things that you do before you game is you agree with your opponent what size terrain is if it's not these. So there's other terrain makers out there, and I'll do some reviews on some MDF terrain and other things that come out as and when. And then finally we have the cars. Finally, for the miniatures at least, we have the cars. So here we've got the 2 different cars. Here's the base to the Daily Bugle, and as we can see, it's size 3. That's why I couldn't find it. And there's the side panels to it. So here we have the cars, which I appear to be missing a couple of frames, which is disappointing. They are a size 2 here. Let me have a look to see if there's anything in the sides. Aha, there we go. So for reference, they are in the sides. Is there anything in this side? There we go, the movement tools. So, the cars, size 2. Both exactly the same. You get a few little accessories, so you can turn them into taxis if you want to. They've got wing mirrors and things like that. But again, nice little detailed piece of kit. Very, very different to other war games out there with so things like 40k and Fantasy. They're all different kind of terrain settings and things like that. And this is modern day. This is what you'd see in one of the Marvel films or Marvel comic books. Now there is some terrain coming out that's in like a galactic setting for Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's not out yet, and we've not really seen much about it. So yeah, so they're the standard cars, which are size 2, and then we've got the movement tools. So again, very similar. If you're familiar with Fantasy Flight games, Atomic Mass games are part of them or linked to them in some way. So movement tools and range rulers. So this is range 5. That's the longest range in the game. Then we've got range 4, range 3. Let's just tip these out. Sorry, this is bits of stuff going everywhere, not very organised. This is range 2, and for those wondering, range 1 is this. This is range 1. So there we are with the movement, the range tools, and then the movement tools are very, very similar to the ones that you'll find in Legion, whereby they have this pivot point. So we've got long, which is these two, which has got kind of like a Captain Marvel style design on it. Then we've got medium, which has got kind of a skyline and people jumping across it. And then we've got the short, which is just here, which is just someone doing a bit of a dash. And so these are pivoted for when they clip together for moving around things in the game. But more on that when we talk about the rules. Just one thing I probably should notice and mention about the range rulers is they've all got these kind of really cool, funky designs on them in terms of kind of whether it looks like a psychic power out of a comic book, or this one's kind of flame effect, and this one looks like more of a beam weapon. So they're kind of cool, and if you have a look online and when I get some painting done, you can do some really, really cool effects with those things in terms of how you paint them up. And then the last thing in here, I should say, is the threat cards. So these are like the mission cards. So we've got the Daily Bugle kind of threat cards, and then we've got the kind of the blue ones. And I can't remember what they're actually called. There's a difference between the two, but effectively they are the kind of crisis cards that you use for the game. So there's three red and 3 blue in this, and then you get extra ones in the different expansion packs and things like that. They're coming out all the time, and so these are effectively the two types of mission that will be going on at the same time in the game, and they all link to kind of what type of map and things like that you use. And there they are. They're red and blue on the back. And then there's the different maps. So you've got A, C, and E on that side, and then B, D, and F on the opposite side. And so they're all to do with, they link to these cards here in terms of how we set them up and things like that. Again, not going to go into too much detail about that. We'll do a how to play. And then there's the affiliation cards. You get 2 of them, double-sided obviously. So we've got the Avengers here. So the people in the Avengers are Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Thor, Prince of Asgard, Black Panther, and Vision. And then on the other side, we've got the Cabal, which is Red Skull, Baron Zemo, Ultron, Crossbones, Killmonger, Loki, God of Mischief, and MODOK. So they're the 2 kind of affiliation cards that you get in this pack. There are other ones, so there's ones from the like Wakandan set, and that affiliation cards, again, I'll go through in more detail when we talk about the actual reviews of the different kinds of teams and things that you can set up. But what they effectively do is they link to some of the abilities and things like that, and some of these team tactic cards need to be affiliated with one or the other, and it's all to do with how you set up your team in the game. And then here we've got the team tactics cards, which we've got a grand total of 20 of them. I'm not going to go through and read them one by one, but as I should say, they are kind of they're there for use. Some are affiliated, some are unaffiliated, some require certain characters to be involved. But again, you use these in terms of how you. There's a mission objective card there as well. You use these in your. Mission objective is one of the team tactics cards. And they've got really, really cool artwork on the back. So you've got things like Venom and Carnage there, and Spider-Man. You've got Rocket on the back of War Machine, Baron Zemo fighting against, I can't remember the name of it now, Black Cat and someone from the Spider-Verse. I can't remember the name right now. Then we've got Hulk. As I say, really, really cool artwork. So the artwork in this game is phenomenal, and it just links to things like the Marvel films and to Marvel comic books. I'll admit I'm not a huge one on Marvel comics. The only Marvel comics I really read are the Star Wars ones, which are fantastic if you get a chance to. But some of the series that I'm looking at doing on this channel are going to delve into some of the background on the comic book heroes and the how they play about in game and things like that. So that's it. That's everything that you get in the box. I've made a bit of a mess here, but I'll be back in a little while to show you what they look like when they're built. Bye for now. And we are back. So all in all, that took probably the best part of an afternoon just for me to kind of clip the models, clean them down, build them together, things like that. So I'm just going to show you just a brief overview of what they look like. So let's start with the terrain. So this is the Daily Bugle stand. As I said before, it's size 3. Goes together fairly easily. The only difficulty that I had was this counter window bit here. It's a little bit awkward to kind of put in. But other than that, yep, goes together fairly quickly. I'm gonna finish this off with, you get a load of like spare coffee cups and things like that, and broken cans. I'm probably going to put a few up here to make it look like people have been sat up there drinking and dicking about. You also get the 2 dumpsters, probably the easiest thing in the kit to put together. Very little cleaning, and that goes for everything that's in this set. There's very, very few mould lines, which is really, really good. And that's based on how they've designed and split down the miniatures. Obviously, they've designed it on a computer 3D modelling software. But yeah, so the 2 trash cans, garbage bins, whatever you want to call them, dumpsters, size 2. And then we've got the cars. I've done one as a taxi. So with a little sign, and you get like the little wing mirrors and wheels and things. Again, very, very easy to put together, very few mould lines and issues like that. And then there's the other car, which I've not put the taxi sign on. I figure I'll just paint that up as a regular car. And then what have we got here? So we've got the traffic light, so crosswalk or whatever you want to call it, and a lamppost. So they're both size 1, says on the bottom. And yeah, you get 2 of those and 2 of those. And then let's have a look. Finally, the last little piece of terrain is this. It doesn't have a size on it. It's just a little trash can. It's more like scatter terrain. I guess it doesn't have any in-game effect and you can't throw it, but I think it's quite cute. Right, onto the so-called heroes. As you can probably tell from this video, I much prefer the so-called bad guys in most games that I play, to be honest. So here we've got Captain America. See if that zooms in there. The first Avenger. Really, really nice one to put together. Not too many problems. There are a few little fiddly bits like his shoulder pad, but other than that, this guy's not too difficult to put together. And then we've got Iron Man, which again was a fairly easy one to put together. Not too many problems. I'm probably going to be painting these up in kind of a comic book style, as opposed to the kind of hyper-realistic look that some people are going for. So yeah, there's Captain America and Iron Man. And then we've got Black Widow here. Again, fairly easy to put together, not too many fiddly bits on her. This arm comes in like 2 pieces. That was a little bit fiddly, but really, really good detail on these kits. Such a flow of movement. And then we've got Spider-Man, looking really good with his kind of scenic bit of his base here. Now, one of the things when I was putting these together is what I made sure to do is assign the bases to people first, because some of the bases you can't really use on them. So like this bit, if you'd have used the base here with this sidewalk bit on it, would have been fairly difficult to get it to fit properly. And so I recommend if you can assign the bases first, and then what it means is you can you don't have any problems with putting them on. And then finally, Captain Marvel for the Avengers side. I absolutely hated putting this one together. These arms are really, really tricky. It's difficult to see kind of which upper arm goes with which arm based on the instructions, because they're not numbered. And she's just very, very fiddly in this sash. Absolutely hated putting her together. But there she is. If I was to do it again, what I'd recommend is glue the upper arms onto the body first, and then that way you can realise which, like the left and right arm, obviously you can see which side they go in. But yeah, or dry fit your miniatures together first. Okay, now on to the Cabal. So let's start with the leader here. We've got the Red Skull. So simple to put together. Really, really nice pose with him. As with all of these, they've all got such dynamic poses. There he is carrying the Tesseract. And then we've got Baron Zemo. Again, as I said in the earlier part of this video, probably the least well-known character in here. Not too fiddly to put together. His elbow patches from his jacket are separate pieces, so they're quite fiddly to put in. But other than that, not too many problems with this guy. Crossbones, seen in at the start of Civil War, and also in, well, you see him as before his Crossbones in Captain America Winter Soldier. So yeah, again, simple one to put together. Not too sold on the pose of this guy, but hey, what are you going to do? And then we've got Doc Ock, who is from the Spider-Man kind of series. Obviously, he's still Marvel. Really, really dynamic. Not in the body. The body's super simple to put together, but in terms of his octopus arms, he's on a medium base. And yeah, there's not really much more to say about him. The fiddly bits on this one, and trying to understand which tentacle goes into which socket. So I'd advise kind of building the tentacles first, because then you kind of understand which one goes where. And then finally, we've got probably my favourite miniature, is Ultron. Now this one's got a lot of pieces to him. So for example, this upper leg is in 2 or 3 pieces. on both sides, and then for his arms and things like that. But such a cool model in terms of how he's kind of the layers of armor and things like that on him. Really, really good detail. Probably going to be painting him up in a metallic style, because obviously he is a metalloid monstrosity. But yeah, other than that, as I say, took best part of an afternoon to put together. I mean, Spider-Man took like 10 minutes to put together. Some of the more complicated ones took about 15 minutes to put together. And your mileage may vary depending on how used to making models and things you are. Might be more difficult for the kind of someone that's not made miniatures before, but they're not as difficult to put together as, say, like a B1 battle droid if you play Legion, because they are super fiddly. But yeah, so thanks very much for watching. I'm probably going to come back and do some individual painting guides and show you kind of how I've painted the miniature, and talking then about in detail about the actual character in the game and things like that. So if you've got any comments, please leave them below, and like and share this video for more content. Thank you very much. Bye.